All right, guys, welcome back to the eSports Report. I'm Chris Puckett, joined now by my good buddy from the UK, one of my favorite Call of Duty casters out there. We got Mr. Benson on the line. Ben, how you doing, my friend?
I'm doing really good, really good. Today is a pretty interesting day. It's a day which I think the Call of Duty community kind of loves. At the same time, a few people maybe don't like it as much as others, but still, it's been pretty epic so far. I'm curious to see what else happens over the next couple of days.
Now, earlier in the day, I saw you tweet that you have some exciting news. Do you have the intel on these moves, Ben?
All I'm gonna say is I'm not officially gonna say anything. I don't want to, betray anyone's trust. I've heard a couple of things.
Okay.
Let's just put it that way. For tonight's show, though, I'm gonna try and give the sort of opinion of what could be.
What could be?
If those rumors were wrong, and also maybe say them without actually saying that is in fact the truth.
All right, well, for those who have been missing the craziness on Twitter over the last 16 hours, let me catch you up. It all started with this tweet coming from Karma. I don't want to be on this team. I was going to be dropped for not going to ESL due to not wanting to miss my daughter's birth. Okay, first of all, that's a pretty effed up situation. But Karma wasn't the only one tweeting. Just a few minutes later, we had Pat Price, better known as Aches, respond. Let's take a look. Dude, I'm not even going to get into this with you. Not once were you told that you're going to be dropped if you couldn't attend, period. So, Aches just clearing that up that he wasn't going to be dropped if he couldn't attend. That's all. Well, then we had Crimsix. He had a few angry tweets instantly after Karma said something, but then later wrote this tweet. Our side of the story video will be out tomorrow, a.k.a. today. This was sent late last night. I respect Damon's decision to leave. He was like a brother to us. Time to move on. So, Karma, arguably the best player in all of Call of Duty, the best player in Black Ops 2, in my opinion, ridiculous stats throughout Call of Duty Ghost, is a free agent, or at least trying to get off his team. But, Ben, before we talk about where he might go, let's take a quick look back at his career. What are some of his top placements that we've seen out of Karma?
Karma is a two-time world champion. That's the first thing you need to know. This is one of the best players in Call of Duty, period. But if we take a look at just his Ghost stats, they're still very, very impressive. I mean, he started off MLG Columbus. That was with Team Envyus, which seems like so long ago. That was a fifth-place finish. Then, of course, the Complexity era really started to kick in with him, and that was UMG Philly was his first event. That was first place, I believe. PAX was first place. Then seconds at US Regionals. That was still with Complexity. COD Champs, of course, this year was first place for him. UGC Niagara, again, first place. X Games, third place, as I think a lot of people will remember that event. And then, obviously, MLG Anaheim Season 2 Finals, he placed first again there. Until recently, Gfinity, fifth place. And you look at his year, and you've got to say, it's pretty consistent. But, a lot of first places there. Ironically, he started with a fifth place finish, and it looks like he's going to end with a fifth place finish. But this has been one of the best Call of Duty players to ever grace the game, without fact.
He is always putting up positive numbers, always a guy you can trust in a 1v1 clutch, and S&D.
Yeah.
Karma does it all. The one thing we have seen from him is he's jumped now to 3 teams in the last 2 years, which compared to a lot of players is not much. But if you look at a player on his caliber, at his level, it's something to take note of. So With him wanting to leave his team, we got to take a look at our Season 3 trade rules. Now, of course, MLG with the MLG COD League, one of our big goals was to stop the crazy rotation of players after every tournament. So trade rules were put in place at the very start of the year, and you'll see that the movement period is July 14th through September 19th. During this 5-month period or 3-month period, you're going to see team owners may submit trade requests. However, under this, trade requests may include monetary compensation, so you can pay for the player you want. All teams involved in a trade must maintain the same numbers of players that they had prior to the trade. So that means I can't just pick up Karma. I have to give you at least a starter or a sub. And then finally, trades including starters must be approved by that starter. So you can't just go to a team and pick up a player. If that player doesn't want to leave the team, they can deny that trade and probably get bumped down to the bench or one of the sub spots as they'll move a starter up. But the players are protected in this situation. So, Ben, I see it as 3 different ways this could go down. You go Karma for another starter straight up, Karma for a substitute with some financial incentive, So they're going to pay me $5,000, give you a substitute, but I'm going to get Karma. And then finally would be, Karma for a sub with no money. Or really, I guess he could just sit on EG's bench if they don't want to move him.
Yeah, that's what Aches was actually tweeting earlier on today, that for now he's going to remain a substitute on the team. Whether that's going to be the final decision on that, I'm not quite sure. But as well as you have to remember, this is a guy who's just had a baby as well.
Right.
His priority right now is going to be full family mode, and you can't blame him for that. That's definitely going to be his main focus, and he doesn't really need to worry that much about this season. I think if he does want to continue playing the game, I mean, who knows? He may opt to just retire outright. This is two-time world champion we're talking about.
I was going to say he's been to $2 million tournaments and he's finished first in both. He's not done. Let's just clear that up.
Yeah, but this is one of the most successful players in the game. Period. I know he still has that passion to win and he wants to play at the highest level. So for me, his next couple of days are going to be pretty important for him. I think he has to just try and cool down a little bit. You've seen a couple maybe heated discussions on Twitter. So as soon as he calms down, I think you'll maybe have an official word from him.
Well, one thing we know is that everyone is going to be going after this guy. He is too good not to go after. That's like seeing LaShawn McCoy available in an NFL draft and not picking him up. So we're going to see Karma get picked up by somebody. But the one thing that I want a lot of the younger fans tuning in is to understand the business side. Now, when Evil Geniuses picked up the Complexity Squad, they had to purchase that. So EG has put down money to put these guys under contract or to pick up the Complexity contract. So EG, without a doubt, in my mind, if I'm a businessman of any sort, I will not get rid of Karma without getting something back. That limits the number of places that I think are willing to that he could potentially go to. You got to find organizations that have that money to pick them up. So Ben, let's start it off. Where do you think Karma would be a good fit? Who are some of those teams out there that have the bank that could potentially even afford this guy?
So the first thing that you have to know is Optic Gaming. I think that's the first name which anyone who knows anything about COD eSports would immediately think, all right, Karma could definitely go there. They without a doubt have the money. They could potentially do a trade. That's another key thing you have to think about, as you mentioned before. You look at Optic Gaming's recent performances, and they look pretty solid. Karma could fit in very, very nicely with that team. That's for sure. People are looking at Clayster, especially today. Some of the tweets that he's been putting out, people saying, "Oh, well, what's up with Clay? Is Clay leaving? Is he going to stay?" Proofy said that he has no intention of leaving the team as well a little bit earlier on. But a lot of people have said, Proof hasn't been playing the best recently. Ever since X Games, he really hasn't had a standout performance. Clayster as well himself tweeted saying, "Hey, I haven't really had the best KD as opposed to what he's used to." I think he said it was like a 1.06 from past events, and he said, he expects a lot better. As well as that, you got to think about Advanced Warfare as well. Obviously, we still have Season 3, but if you're going to make a change, especially a change of this scale, which is going to cost this much, because it's definitely, as you said, it's a business change. This isn't just a, hey, let's play with someone for the next couple of months. That's not the way that EG are going to let this go. Karma's worth a lot of money, and as you said, there has to be certain institutes which can actually afford that in the first place. So,
well, Optic Gaming, I think, is probably one of the most attractive places to land. When you look at the stats, these, of course, coming from our friends at COD_stats. You can find them on Twitter, as well as we got some stats from our friends at CODesports.tv. So thank you to both groups. But Karma, regardless of the player numbers, has a 1.17. So the only player that can compete there is Scumpy overall in Ghost. Nade shot below a 1.0, Proofy at a 1.0, and Clayster actually second highest in terms of KD. But you got to factor in some of the other objectives and whatnot. And honestly, I was a little bit surprised to see that Clayster was kind of on the chopping block, according to a lot of the tweets we saw. I thought they would go after Proofy first. He joined up pretty recently. They have had some success with him winning X Games, but they've also had a disappointing placement at Gfinity, and now another one finishing fourth at Dallas with Proofy. So I was wondering, will Karma join up with Clayster once again? Or will he be playing with Nadeshot and Scumpy here on this Optic squad? What is going to happen? Optic Gaming, though, could be a good fit, but do you see Optic breaking up already?
That's the big thing. Optic Gaming making changes, I don't know. I don't think they would. I don't think they really have a reason necessarily to do so. I mean, the strongest argument here, I think, would be Karma for Proofy. That's going to be one of the biggest arguments, because as well, then EG have Proofy, who could be very dominant on Advanced Warfare as well. He's definitely a good player, but he's kind of just lulled a little bit now towards the end of Call of Duty Ghosts. So that could be a decent trade. That could be a very viable trade as well. But whether that's the case, who knows? Another option that you have to think about as well is, of course, Team Envyus. You can't forget about those guys. They've managed to just pick up their first championship. Obviously, that was at G3. They played relatively well at UMG, I think it's fair to say. But you have to think, Karma has been on Envyus before. He started off this season on Team Envyus. Could he potentially go back to Envy? That's something you got to think about.
Yeah, a lot of attention has been on Formal right now, and they're wondering if Formal is gone. Of course, EG could be a huge potential suitor for Formal. Karma, you need someone that can slay. Formal, arguably the best player at all of Gfinity. He went off on the main stage there, looked pretty solid, and his backup performance at Dallas, despite a second-place finish. I think that Karma would be a pretty solid fit on this squad, but Envy's been burnt by this guy once. Would they invest in him a second time, in your opinion?
I mean, that's the question. In all honesty, I don't think they would. I don't think Envy seems to be a team that would want to make any changes. But Formal, he wants to be on the best team he possibly can. EG won at the last event, so it's kind of hard to say, oh, well, would EG have won? Answer probably yes. I would say they probably would have done if they did attend. But you have to think as well, Formal's the only player on that team I think that they would be willing to trade with. But I don't think Formal would go for that. I think as well, Formal may start thinking about Halo. Obviously, with the new Halo game coming out, his background, I've tried to pick his brains as much as I possibly could of, what's his decision going to be. And in all honesty, he said he's really happy at Team Envyus for now. His main focus is going to be on Call of Duty. But I just can't see Envy making that trade. I honestly don't think they will. I think, as you said, he's already burnt one bridge. I don't think Envy are the type of organization that are going to allow that to happen twice.
Would you let go of JCap for Karma if you were Envy's team owner?
In all honesty, no. Simply because the team has such good synergy right now. This is a team who, after spending a lot of time with them in Germany, it's like being surrounded by four brothers. It really is. They have such good jokes and laughs, and they have such respect for the organization as well. I don't see why Envyus would make any changes to this team, especially after this is the sport that have just brought home their first championship ever. To me, that doesn't really make much sense. Why would you, after just winning a major championship, make a team change? Obviously, this is Call of Duty, so we see that quite often, but in the management of Envious's mind, I don't think they would do that. That to me doesn't make any sense.
All right, so Optic Gaming, you're leaning a little closer to than you would for Envy based on previous interactions and just kind of the team chemistry at the moment. There's one more team that I want to talk about before we go to a quick commercial break, and I think this one might be a surprise and very controversial in the community, but FaZe. FaZe is a team, 3/4 of these guys were U.S. champions. These guys won the U.S. championship for Call of Duty Ghost, going under the name Strictly Business. Now under the FaZe organization, they've added Parasite. They've had top 3 finish at AEL. They went over to Gfinity, top 4 finish there. A very disappointing 9th place finish at UMG Dallas. Is FaZe in a position where they feel desperate enough to make a move? You can see Sensor, he's the OBJ man. Not a lot of eyes will be on him to get replaced. But in my opinion, I'm looking at Parasite and Dito, and I'm wondering, are either of these guys replaceable? Do you replace Parasite after seeing him go back to the AR role and give that to Karma now?
So originally, that was a team that immediately came out to my mind. I was thinking, hey, FaZe, they could definitely be a team with that. But then immediately something struck my mind, and I just don't think there's any way Karma wants to team with Parasite again.
Right.
Go back to the Black Ops 2 days, where obviously it was Freako Impact back then, and that always seemed to be the argument. It was Parasite versus the other 3 players, Killer, Miracles, and Karma. So I think that's the only trade that you could possibly have, because at first I thought Apathy, that could definitely be a great trade. Apathy has been on fire on this game, that's for sure. And there was a bit of controversy with him himself today. He was actually streaming on MLG.tv, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, he turned his stream off, typed in the chat, "Sorry guys, gotta go, something's come up." And immediately everyone sat back and was like, whoa, what's going on with Apathy? Is everything good?
Hero, so, I am pissed. I am getting off. See you guys
I don't
later.
want to use that word, but that was his exact words that he used. So he had a little bit of stuff going on there, and that made me think, maybe it could be Parasite going across to EG, but then would EG want to team with Parasite? That's a big question, because he hasn't really had a great event, I don't think, on this game. But again, Advanced Warfare coming out, they definitely think about that, because EG's sort of foundation right now is so solid that I think they could literally pick up anyone in the community and still be, guaranteed a top 3 team without a shadow of a doubt. I just think that core 3 is just so strong as it is But this next season of COD, I really don't think it matters who they play with.
All right, well, Ben, we need to throw it to a quick commercial break. Guys, when we come back, we'll be talking about a few more teams that Karma might end up on, as well as who should take his spot on Evil Geniuses as he falls to the bench. We'll be back with more live on the ESR.